So we now see that the written by our team section has some issues with it. One, the gray background doesn't stretch to the right and to the left. Second, our previous next navigation doesn't display because we're moving it to the right and to the left, and right now that content is invisible. Also, it appears like we're cutting off the content on this right part of the snippet. So what should we do about this? Well, let's play in our browser a bit to see what we can do. So I'm going to inspect the container element, so that's going to be our stacked hero section. And what I'll do first is set the width on this to 100%. So the goal here is to stretch that background color all the way across, regardless of the size of the browser. Okay, so this is overriding a style that we just set to fix the width to 960 pixels, but we can think about this as a subcomponent of the stacked hero section. So in this style of the component, we want it to stretch across the entire screen. Okay, so that fixes the background color stretching across, but our slideshow now stretches all the way across as well. So let's set it to a fixed width. So I'll inspect an element in the slideshow, and down here in the dev tools, I'll scroll up until I get to the container. So here we are, the Flexslider snippet slideshow container. And let's set a fixed width on this. Let's set it to 960 pixels to be consistent. So now we have our fixed width here, and we can see our next icon, but it's being left aligned. So let's center it using our margin left, margin right auto trick. All right, when we do that, we can now see the next and previous icons. So this should work for larger screens, but as we make the browser smaller, there will be a point where we can no longer see the next and previous buttons, right here at about the 1000 pixel wide mark. And also our content is going to start dropping off. So if we think about this as a potential breakpoint, what would make sense? Well, what we did with our grid up here was we switched it. Instead of laying out 4 across, we changed it to laying out 2 so that it fit. We can use the same approach down here with our slideshow. Instead of laying out 2 across, what about using just 1 across? Well, we should be able to do that by changing the width of the slideshow to fit just one of the items, which was 515 pixels. We can see that if we go back to our code and look at our snippet slideshow here and what we set as the item width. So now we can navigate to our different items, and we have some space on either side as the size of the viewport collapses even more. So that'll work until we get up to about this point here, when the next icon starts to drop off to the side. So when this happens, what could we do? So one thing that we did with our next and previous icons was we bumped them to the right and to the left of the content. So we could change that now so that it instead overlaid the content. So I'll inspect this element and I'll unset the right -50 pixels. And I'll inspect this element here and we'll unset the left -50 pixels. And that will give us a little bit more space to work with so we can make it even smaller. If we want to go even smaller, what we can do is drop some of the content that's causing it to be wide. So if we dropped this image here, this thumbnail, that would give us a bit more space, and the thumbnail isn't critical to the content. So let's inspect this element, and we'll just set it to display none to hide it. And that will give us a little bit more space that we can use. And so with all those, we can get down to about 420 pixels wide and still be able to see our content all right.